Greetings hobbyists, this is Artisans of Vol. And in this video we're talking about a free add-on that's pretty game-changing in terms of what it can do to your workflow. So we have actually talked about this add-on previously. It's called Modifier List, and if I come to Edit and Preferences and we go to our add-ons, admittedly you're going to have to get it from your extension warehouse first, so just type in Modifier List or a part of it and then click Install on where it says Modifier List. But if we come to our add-ons and bring up Modifier List and select it, we get this cool menu here, and we've talked about this in the previous video. There's a link to that in the description, so I'm not going to go through all that again. But it also has some features that I didn't really know about that are a little bit hidden away. And it's not until you start playing with it that you really start finding these. And also people have been really helpful and added some comments in the comments section of that previous video to talk about this. So we're going to go through these in order. For the first one, I'm actually going to deactivate Modifier List just to demonstrate something first. And for each of them, we'll talk about why this is helpful. So if we just start with our normal Blender workflow and I do something like Control and 3 to add in a subdivision surface, well, that's great. But say I'll come into vertex mode and I start editing this, like I move something around, let's say to there, and I want to apply this and then carry on editing it. I can't apply this. It's blanked out, and it even comes up with a notification telling you why. It's disabled because this modifier operation is not allowed from edit mode. So I have to come out of edit mode, then come and apply it, then go back into edit mode, and now I can start editing things. And it's all a bit tedious. Like, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it is annoying. So if I come back to edit and preferences and reactivate our modifier list, we get the better setup that we've talked about in the previous video. But importantly, if I just come here and then click apply, I can apply my modifiers even though I'm in edit mode. So apply modifiers even though I'm in edit mode, and I can get straight on editing. Just a nice little thing that saves us some time, and I do like these little quality of life updates. Let's delete that out and bring in, let's say, a cube. Now the other thing that this does is it adds some options in for certain modifiers. For example, if I come in here, let's Shift and A and type in mirror and add in my mirror modifier, well, I mean, this is a cube, so it's boring at the moment. It's just mirroring across itself. And sometimes I'd want to mirror maybe across the cursor or the center of space, or I'd want to mirror it in a slightly different way. Now, to do that, normally we'd add in an empty, and we have to Shift A and bring in an empty and then move it to wherever. But here, actually, we've got this included in the add-on. We can add, I don't know why it doesn't call it an empty, because it's an empty, but we can add a gizmo here. And if you notice, we can put it into certain different places. If I hold down Shift, it will be the 3D cursor, Control, it will be the world origin, or if I just click it, it will do it to wherever the active object's origin is. So let's just click Shift and do it to the 3D cursor. And now, well, this is mirroring in this direction. Let's change that to the Y-axis. But yeah, we've just added that in really quickly and easily. The other thing we can do if we don't like this is we can click here, we can select the gizmo, delete the gizmo, move the gizmo around quite easily and fiddle with the gizmo as much as we want and change how big it is. But also we can change the way this gizmo looks or the empty looks. I quite like using the sphere. Let's make that a little bit smaller. And it does put that in its own little collection. So we've got our gizmo objects, making things a little bit quicker and easier to find. Let's just X and delete those out. So this last one's probably the one to get really excited about. So I'm just going to set up some sort of demonstration of this and we'll talk through what it can and can't do and how I'm using it and why I like it. So let's just G and then set that up as well. So let's just talk about standard Blender workflow again. So if we come into our modifier and we add in, let's say, a solidify modifier, and we up the size of that, and then we want to do something with this. I decide that I don't want this the same thickness on the bottom and the top. I want the top to be wider. So I'm going to have to edit this. So the standard way of doing this is, well, normally I'm going to either save a copy of this, or I'm going to Shift and D to make a duplicate of this and then hide it, because I want to have something saved for whenever I'm going to apply this modifier. So let's come here and apply this, and then I can go into edit mode and, I don't know, select there and scale those up to something like that. Now, this has got a number of problems. If I want to do something, let's say, I don't know, I've got another object over here, and I want to edit this in a different way, I don't know, let's just do something like that, and then scale this one up, whatever. If I suddenly realise that I want to come back and change this, well, now I can go to this save version here, or I can go to my save file and bring this back, or I can undo all the way back to the point where I've got just this, and now I can start changing it. Say I want to change this thickness slightly. Now, that's all well and good, but suddenly I've got to get rid of everything over here, and this might be quite later that I decide to do this, because I like working on multiple objects at the same time. Let's just come in and delete this. So what we can do instead, and this is where this is absolutely genius, is I can come in here and add in an edit mesh modifier. And what that does is that takes the modifiers that are above it. It can be more than one thing. I could do multiple things here, and allows me to go into vertex mode, and it's like I've applied them. But I haven't. It's still here. So I can still come in here, and then let's scale that up. And then I might want to now, well, let's Control and 3 to add in a subdivision surface. Now, what's interesting here is I can still come back into edit mode, and it refers back to the edit mesh point here. So I can still do what I'd normally do if I had applied this. So we could come into here and Control and B to add in some edge loops, and then basically get this all tightened up so that we've got our supporting loops if I choose to. And if I want to, I can do more. I could, so let's come here, you can do it here as well, edit mesh, and I can now come into, now let's do face mode and select, let's say there, and then Control and plus, and I don't know, Alt and E, and extrude faces along normals. So what this is doing is freezing in place the modifiers above it and allowing you to work on them. Now, this does have some limitations, and a really important limitation. I can't come back into these modifiers and change them. If I come here to the solidify modifier and try to change the thickness, nothing will happen because the edit modifier here has basically baked it in at what it was before. So this isn't going to allow me to change this modifier and then everything move around with it. I mean, if you could do that, that would be amazing, but I think that's probably almost impossible for Blender to do. It might be doable for something like Solidify, but if this was to work with a bevel modifier, I don't think it's actually possible to make this work, which is a shame, because that would be fantastic. But the way Blender works off of coding its vertices and numbering them, I think that's just not a viable or realistic option. But I don't think that that doesn't make this really handy, because again, if I have another object over here, let's say a cube, and I want to start editing this and then do whatever, but regardless of what it is, if I suddenly realise that no, I want to change something here, I don't need to bring back anything that I've done previously and start again. I can basically come in here and start deleting out these modifiers until I get to the point where I'm happy. So we were here, so let's get back to this. So now I can change the thickness just that little bit and get back and re-edit this, but I haven't got to negatively affect the rest of my scene. What this allows you to do in essence is have a perfect set of undo features that you can deal with in the modifier stack, which means that you always have the ability to change around each of your individual objects and come back and edit them later, and you can always effectively have an undo function, even if it was like 3 days later and 2,000 other functions, which you normally can't do any other way. Now, there are some potential bugs in this that are worth mentioning, because maybe there's something we could manipulate if we get to understand this more. So what I've done is I'm just going to do exactly the same thing again. Now, this is where we can start creating errors in this. Remember that this edit mesh was the one that we've got the increase in size at the top, and we've also got the bevels on it. So let's just delete this one out. So clear edited mesh data. And now we jump back to, well, nothing. But we've still got this edit mesh, which has sort of been removed, and we've got this subdivision surface. So if we delete out this one as well, oh, now we get the subdivision surface working again, because now it's become active and unfrozen. So we do jump around a little bit. And importantly, a weird bug that I found is if I go into vertex mode now, well, actually, you can still access these vertices like you had that edit mesh on there, but the edit mesh isn't there anymore. So this can confuse Blender slightly, and interestingly, we've got some other weird bits going on down here as well. So this will confuse Blender until I then come to this subdivision and then get rid of that, And now we've got the solidify, but once again, it seems to have had the bevel added on it, even though we don't have the edit mesh to be able to do anything with it. So again, we're going to have to delete that back. And now it's still got the solidify modifier on it. So there are some weird little things that do seem to be taking place here. And just to do that again, I think it's important to point out I am deleting that solidify modifier, but it comes back to this point as if we've confirmed it. So there are some little bugs here, and I think it's worth really noting that you do need to go through and delete through this stack in order, not just start coming to the middle and deleting out some of these edit meshes, because it will have some potentially undesirable effects. Now I say potentially undesirable because maybe if you did this enough and worked out what it keeps and what it gets rid of, you could manipulate this further. But I just haven't been able to play around with it enough to get to that point. But either way, I think this is a really, really useful tool. It's just important, as always with Blender and any other program or software, to know where their limitations lie. Now, if you did find this video worthy of it, please hit that like button. It's really appreciated and it helps spread the video around. And in this instance, I think that's important because I don't see this being covered a lot, and I think it's really important that people find out about this. Because as I say, it has really changed the way I generally work in my workflow, and it's meaning I have to save a lot less files and use a lot less computer space. But do let me know what you think of it in the comments section. Am I missing something on the way this could be used, or have you figured out some of these weird little bugs that we can play around with? It'd be really useful to hear about anything that you think. And I really do love hearing from you all. So anyway, I hope to see you in the next video, and have a great day.